Today we're going to be taking a look at an upcoming watch from one of my favorite micro brands, and I'm pretty sure you guys have never seen anything like this before. Today we're taking a look at the new sports watch from Swiss Watch Company. Let's check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave, and like I said, today we're going to be taking a look at a new prototype watch from the Swiss Watch Company. Now this watch is currently in KickStarter right now. You can go over and sign up for the pre-order through KickStarter to get it. It has already met its funding goal, so it is going to be sold. This watch is being produced in both a quartz version and an automatic version. However, for the Kickstarter, they are only producing 200 units of the automatic variant. So if you're more interested in getting the version with the Sellita SW200 inside it, you probably want to go and sign up for that quickly because that one could potentially sell out. They're committed to making as many versions of the quartz variant as people are interested in. And interestingly enough, the quartz variant is also has a dual time function on it, so a little bit of added functionality if you do decide to opt for the quartz. Swiss Watch Company released their first watch about a year ago. It was a dive watch that I reviewed here on the channel, and I really liked it. It's one of my favorite dive watches, and I really like them as a company as well. They're headed up by Stephen Romer, who worked for many years for the Swatch Group doing quality control before he moved stateside to start his own watch company. And actually, long before they began producing their own watches under their own brand name, he was manufacturing watches for other people. So I think Swiss Watch Company has actually been in business producing watches for somewhere around 20 years or something like that. And what's really cool about that is that they've actually been in business producing watches, honoring warranties, servicing watches that they've sent out. They do a lot of things in-house. It's a family-run business. So Stephen Romer and his sons run the business. His son Josh does the marketing. And then some of his sons are also involved in the actual watchmaking. So they actually have a watchmaker in the family that works on some of the production and quality control. And they have the capability to service the watches that are in need of repair as well. So they offer a lot as a company, which I think is a really unique thing about them. Now, one of the things that Stephen seems particularly passionate about is innovation. Seems like every watch that they come out with, they try to do something that's never been done before. And in this case, they've created a sports watch that has a really unique ceramic ring in the dial. So part of the dial is actually made out of ceramic. It's a single piece of ceramic that has the indices kind of raising out of it that have then been carved and hollowed out so that they can fill it up with a lot of lume. So this thing glows super dark in the bright, and the dial is just unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's a really cool, really unique take on the sports watch, and definitely I think they're kind of stretching their wings a little bit after doing kind of a more conservative approach with the diver. The design of the diver really drew a lot of inspiration from I think some other classic watches, whereas this sports watch is really a totally new, totally unique design. And a definite strength of this watch is the manufacturing and the design of the individual elements of the watch. Everything is done to an extremely high standard. It's the kind of design that you can just really get lost in, staring down at the details when you check the time on your wrist. But it is a very unique and different design. It's probably not going to be a design that appeals to everybody. And part of me does wonder if the design is completely cohesive, if it's more than the sum of its parts. So we'll kind of talk about that angle as well as we go through the review. So they sent me two prototypes to take a look at today. One is the automatic version, one is the quartz version. So I'll be looking at both of those, and if I remember correctly, I think they said I can pick one of the two to keep and hold on to, so full disclosure with that. And then before I jump in the review, I do want to remind you guys that these are prototypes, so there are going to be some minor changes with the full production model. So let me run through those real quick before we start looking at some macro shots and taking a closer look at it. They're going to be making a minor change to Swiss-made text at the bottom. The lume is going to be changed up a little bit. I believe on the automatic version that I have, the lume is pretty close to what the production will be on the indices, but not the hands. Anyways, it's pretty bright. We'll take a closer look at the lume, but keep in mind that if anything, the lume will be better than what you're seeing today. They say that the ceramic ring is about 90 to 95% of what you'll see in the productions, but it will be cleaned up a little bit more. So you might notice some minor imperfections in the macro shots. All of that should be cleaned up for the release. The second hand on some of the quartz models doesn't quite hit the indices on the prototypes, but they say that they're going to line it up really well for the production, so that shouldn't be an issue there. And finally, the silicone strap should be finished to a little bit higher quality as well. They shouldn't see as many seams and things as you're going to see on the prototype version that I have here. So with all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the watch. So these are the watches that Swiss Watch Company has sent me in for review. These are both prototypes in various stages of production, but they'll give you a pretty good idea of what you're going to get from them. You'll notice I have a pretty good selection here of straps and colors and finishes and movements. There are a ton of options here. So you can get a dual time quartz movement or a Sellita SW200 powered automatic option. All the watches will come on a silicone strap with a curved end here, so it integrates really well with the case of the watch. And then you're also going to get an additional Velcro elastic strap, which is very comfortable, giving it a very sporty look. And separate from the campaign, you'll be able to purchase a metal bracelet as well. So we'll go over all those options in more detail in a minute here, but first I just want to talk about the watch itself. So this is the Sellita SW200 automatic variant. And so the dial has two main components. You have this sort of textured, colored area in the middle, which is sunk in and heavily textured with this kind of square brick-like texture. And then around that you have this ring. Now this ring is the main part of the watch that they really tried to spend a lot of innovation on. I heard they spent over a year in development trying to create this. So this is a single solid piece of ceramic. The indices are not applied to it. They're actually engraved into the ceramic. They raise up out of the dial, and then they've been hollowed out to allow lume to be filled in with it. So that allows them to create an incredibly bright lume profile with a really unique shape, and then the tops of those indices have been polished, so you get some really interesting light play as well. To my knowledge, this has never been done before. So really kind of cool, innovative piece of watchmaking that they've got going there. It's also a very futuristic design. So the indices are not standard indices at all. You can see they're very interestingly done. You've got batons at 9 and 3, and then little smaller, kind of almost like little arrow-shaped ones at 2, 4, 8, and 10. And then around the 12 and 6 o'clock, you've got these really interesting indices that, you know, at first glance, they might be a little bit difficult to figure out how to read, but so the edge of this one at the top is going to mark 11, and then right in the middle, in between those markers, is going to be 12, and then the edge over here is going to be 1. Likewise, when you get down to the bottom, the edge of the index here is going to mark your 5 o'clock, and then dead center in between these two indexes is going to mark your 6 o'clock. And then over here is going to mark your 7 o'clock. So a completely new index layout as well. I've never seen an index layout done like that either. And it gives the watch a very interesting look, very different from anything that I've seen, which some people will find very appealing, and it will probably drive some other people crazy. So this is, I think, definitely them kind of trying to stretch their wings a little bit and do something totally unique and new. And the end result is at the very least very cool. Some people I think are going to really be drawn to it and like that kind of new innovation, and others might just crave something more simple and more classic. Now, even though these are prototypes, I was still very impressed with the finishing of the overall watch. That ceramic ring is especially cool. It's really amazing to have that kind of matte, rough surface on the bottom of it, and then to have those indexes raising up and then to be polished like that. It really is just a really interesting look and really catches a lot of light and reflects light in very unique ways. And I think because the dial is so unique and so different, they've tried to keep the rest of the watch fairly reserved. They've gone with some very simple dolphin hands, which are lumed, and they are finished extremely well. These are some of the nicest hands I've seen. The edges are just razor sharp on there. There's no roughness. The polishing is great. So I was actually really impressed with the handset that they used as well. I also love the proportion of the hands. The hour hand going just to the edge of that inner dial, and then the minute hand stretching all the way out to that sort of circle of triangles that mark the second track. You're getting a signed crown. And in this case, on the DLC version, everything's kind of a matte finish. But if we switch over to the quartz one that I have, you can see how the finishing will look there a little bit. So you're getting brushing on the sides there, which comes up to a fairly thick polished area on the chamfered edge, followed by going back to brushing on the top of the lugs. You're getting a polished bezel. And if you do opt for the bracelet, it matches the watch perfectly. Now, since we have the quartz version out here, we might as well check in on that subdial. So you can see at 6 o'clock, you've got a subdial here, which is a second time zone. It's actually a completely independent clock. So you set it by pushing this button here. If you get like a little spring bar tool or any small sharp object, you can press that button and it will advance this clock by 1 minute. If you hold it down, it'll go faster. It's fairly easy to set, but it is completely independent of the main hand, so they won't. So if you pull out the crown and adjust it, you can see that the second time zone does not move when you adjust the crown. Looking at the printing at the bottom of the dial, you can see that this is a Swiss-made watch, which is one of the big selling points of this. So this is a watch that is Swiss-made. You've got Swiss parts, Swiss movements inside of it, and the manufacturing and assembling is done in Switzerland as well. In fact, Stephen's son, Jeremy, is a watchmaker who lives in Switzerland, and he is doing all of the assembly. So they are actually doing their own assembly of these watches as well. And I just heard from Josh, this is really cool. They're actually going to be live streaming the assembly of these watches. So if you get in on the campaign, you'll actually be able to watch your watch being assembled by Jeremy, their watchmaker in Switzerland. So that's one of the really unique things about Swiss Watch Company. This is a micro brand that, that they have their own production capabilities and servicing capabilities. They have their own in-house watchmaker. They have a history of being in business. So it's not like a brand new company that doesn't have those resources. They're not just outsourcing all the production to some other manufacturer in China. They do a lot of the stuff in-house, which I think enables them to give a much higher level of customer service and quality control, and they have a lot more control over just the whole process of this, which is really impressive. And then again, this being a Swiss-made watch, I think right now there's, I've been seeing a lot of people commenting, there's more concern about Chinese manufacturing and, ethical concerns and labor concerns and all of that going on with the world. So I think there are more people that are interested in watches that are being manufactured in places other than China. And this one is really competitive on the price. Typically if you're going to go with a Swiss-made watch, it comes with a pretty high markup, especially if it's coming from a micro brand. Something like the Swatch Group, where they can really take advantage of the scale of the manufacturing. They can get their costs down. But for a micro brand to be able to do a Swiss-made watch at this price is really unheard of. So I think just the brand itself is actually a really big strength of this watch too. Okay, let's take a closer look at the strap and bracelet options that they're giving you here. As mentioned, all of the watches will come with a fitted silicone rubber strap, which is very comfortable. It's got some nice venting here. And it has a really well engineered clasp. The function of it's a little bit different from any that I've seen before. It's very solid, it's very smooth in its operation and very comfortable on the wrist. And this definitely has a very sporty look. This is, great for outdoor activity if you're going to be hiking or going in the water, that sort of thing. This is a great look and feel for the watch and very functional as well. Another option that all the watches are going to come with is this Velcro strap. This is kind of a little bit of elastic, so it's got some stretch to it. It's very soft. It's like the soft side of Velcro on both sides of this. So the part that will be pressing up against your wrist will be like that soft Velcro side. It's got an interesting look. I've never seen a strap that is finished quite like that, but I think it looks good on the watch. It's very comfortable. You got another good sports option. Because of the way this is designed, you can get a completely custom fit. So since it's just Velcro, you can adjust it to any size you want to get it to fit your wrist exactly right, which is great. For a more elegant option, you can pay extra, and after the campaign is over, you can order directly from their site this bracelet. And this is a really beautiful bracelet. This is how I would probably prefer to wear the watch, especially if I was getting the stainless steel version. I think it's worth the extra upgrade. And I think this matches the look of the watch the best. If you want the watch to look nice, if that's one of your main concerns, I think this is the one you want to go for. It's a very nice, pretty heavy stainless steel bracelet, very solid, so it's also waterproof, so you can use it for outdoor activities and water activities, and you should be good there. Right now, this is not the clasp that's going to come with, but it will retain the same functionality. As you can see, this clasp has a tool-free micro adjust system on it, which is great. The clasp that they include will be thinner and shorter, but it will still retain that functionality. And then the other thing that you're getting is quick release pins on the bracelet, which is something you don't see very often, but that allows you to change the bracelet fairly easily. Now, as much as I like the strap options that they gave you, I did have a couple of issues with the ones that I received. Now again, these are prototypes. Particularly with the bracelet, it's been passed around. This is not a new bracelet. It's one that, as you can see, has had some wear on it before I ever got it. So I don't know exactly what the history is of that, but let's go over those. First off, with the deployant clasp on here, you can see that the way that it secures there, it's got this post that locks into the strap. It's supposed to have two posts. One of the posts was loose and fell out as soon as I opened it up out of the package. So there's a bit of a manufacturing defect there. And I'm fairly confident that Swiss Watch Company is not going to allow this to happen on the units that they send out to purchasers. They really tried to rush this one over to me to get it out before the campaign ends, so I don't think they had time to do their full quality control look over with it on that. Another interesting thing is I took this one to the beach to film some shooting, and I think I got some sand in the gearing here. It's a little bit grating now. Feels like actually maybe it's worked most of itself out by now, but that's something that might be a little bit of a concern on a sports strap like this. You probably would want to be able to take it to the beach without fear. But yeah, maybe you can still hear a little bit of grating in there. But yeah, it's something that I don't normally have that problem with bracelets when I take a bracelet to the beach. So it just was interesting to note there. And then on the bracelet, I did have an issue with the quick release mechanism. So you can see on one side it works great. You can very easily remove that, and that's just a great feature. However, on the other side, it was the spring bars had frozen up, and I couldn't actually push them in to remove it. And this is something I should not have done, but I got a little tiny screwdriver out and tried to apply some extra force to one of the posts to see if I could get it unstuck, and actually broke the quick release post off. So that was kind of my bad there. But this is something that I was reading online. I saw someone else with a totally different watch that had the same spring bar feature on a bracelet. Had the same problem. So I don't know if that's common to just the system in general. This is kind of a newer thing. I'm just starting to see watches come out with this quick release spring bar system on bracelets, which is a great idea, but if that's going to wind up causing problems where you can have that issue of it freezing or breaking, it's kind of a pain. So I'm not 100% sure what I feel about that. But again, one of the main strengths of Swiss Watch Company being their customer service and their ability to support that. I think that's something that they can definitely help you with if you do have any problems. But hopefully you won't. All right, again, this is not the production Lume, but it's, I think, pretty close on the automatic one. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. It's really bright. Let's check it out. Lume is something that SWC really made a name for themselves with their first release on their diver. They really pioneered a technique of applying 20 layers of Swiss Superluminova to the watch. And they've actually matched that same level of application with this one. It's not as bright because the area in which the Lume covers is smaller, and because the Lume is set inside of those kind of hollowed out areas of the ceramic dial, only the top layer of the Lume is actually visible to the eye. Still, that heavy application does allow it to glow very bright and to last very long. It's not going to be to the same level as a lot of dive watches out there, but even the prototype Lume that I've seen here will even hold its own against pretty much any other sports watch or field watch that I have in my collection. One thing to note is that the hands on this version are not the full production level Lume. That will be increased significantly, but the indices here are fairly close to what you're going to get at the production level. So if you're hoping for a watch with excellent Lume from SWC, they're not going to disappoint you here with this one either. Okay, so what do I think of these watches? Again, I'm really impressed with the manufacturing and the design uniqueness. I'm also really impressed with the execution of each individual component, of that ceramic ring, of that textured dial in the middle, of the hands, their choice of straps and everything. Everything is individually done very well. The one question I would have is with the overall design. Now this is, again, an extremely unique design, and I think it's an important design for Swiss Watch Company. Again, with their diver, they kind of, I think, played a very safe design. They drew heavily on inspiration from other Swiss watches. And, with their own flourishes there, it's especially on the technical level. But in this case, with this ceramic ring and the index design that they've used here, it's completely unique. But it is a design that probably won't appeal to everybody because of that uniqueness. Another question I have about the design is just the busyness of the dial, especially with that textured dial and that ceramic ring and those kind of crazy indexes. There's a lot going on here, and I do wonder if, maybe if they could have kept things a little bit simpler on the dial, if it would have been maybe a more cohesive design. Again, I kind of feel like each individual element is executed extremely well, but I feel like they kind of thought of them separately and then sort of built it piece by piece. Maybe they could have kept the design a little bit simpler there, and it would have meshed together a little better. But at the same time, I really do like that textured dial. I like the way it looks and catches the light. Again, there's just so much to look at when you glance down at this, and a lot of the individual components I think will really draw your eye and really reward you after some careful studying and looking at it more deeply. Design being by far the most subjective thing in a watch. Again, I think this is going to really appeal to some people, and I think a lot of others it's going to be, maybe a little too far out there. For me, I really do like it. I really enjoy wearing it. It is just completely different from any other watch that I own or have experienced. So that's, I think, part of the fun as well. But it might not be my first choice for just an everyday watch because of how unique and different it looks. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this watch. Is this the kind of thing that you would be interested in wearing? Is the design too far out there, or is this like right up your alley? Drop me a comment down below, and make sure you guys check out the Kickstarter if you're interested in picking this watch up. I think you've still got another couple of weeks to get in on it. Again, they are completely funded, so this is going to go to production. You don't have to worry about that, which is always nice to have that peace of mind before you get in. But if you do want an automatic version, make sure you jump on that quickly because they could sell out of those ones. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.